Hi everybody, this is Mitch Rector from National Precast Concrete Association, and today I'm presenting on tips for taking the Fundamentals of Engineering exam. I took the FE back in August of 2017, about 4 months after I graduated, so this information is going to be relevant to people taking the exam sometime in the 2017-2018 year. I'm not sure if they're going to be changing anything in the near future. So we're going to go over 4 main topics. First off, what is the FE? Why do I care? Second, how do you register for it? Where do you go? What's the process for that? Third, I'm going to look at some study materials and strategies that I'd recommend. And fourth, I'm going to talk about some tips while taking the exam, how to maximize your score. So first things first, what is the FE? Well, it's done by the National Council of Examiners for Engineering and Surveying, and from their website, they say the Fundamentals of Engineering exam is generally your first step in the process to becoming a professional licensed engineer. It is designed for recent graduates and students who are close to finishing an undergraduate engineering degree. So once you take it, you'll then become an EIT, an engineer in training. After a while, for most states, it's about 4 years, you can then take the PE and become a professional engineer, but right now we're just going over the FE. So it's composed of 4 main parts that make it about 6 hours long. You've got a 2-minute non-disclosure agreement, an 8-minute tutorial on using the computer software that you'll be taking the test on. Then it's time for the exam proper. You're going to have 110 questions, which total at 5 hours and 20 minutes. That seems like a lot of time, but it goes by really fast. In between that, you're going to have a 25-minute scheduled break. That shows up halfway through the number of questions, and you can take the break or you can just keep working. But if you continue to work, you're not going to get bonus time. So like I said, there's 2 parts to it. You have a general section, which covers your math, your chemistry, your ethics, and then you're going to have a 25-minute break. Like I said, whether you want to take the break or not is up to you. If you want to go back to your locker and maybe grab some study materials and try and cram for whatever it's worth, you can do that. I just worked right through it when I took it because I felt, I was in the zone, I was ready. And then you're going to go into the discipline-specific section. So if you're a civil, you're going to have civil-based questions. If you're an ME, you're going to have ME-based questions. For civils, there is a 69% pass rate for people taking the FE for their first time in the final semester of their undergraduate curriculum. That's not really to scare you, it's just kind of a fact. It depends a bit on, where you studied, what classes you take, but I'd really recommend sit down and study for this. You can do it. It's not impossible, but it is quite hard. So how do I register? Well, you're going to start off by going to the ncees.org website, and you're going to click on the My NCEES button in the top right of the screen. That's going to take you to this screen right here, where you see exams and register for an exam right underneath that. You're going to click on that, and that'll take you through the process of registering. In 2018 and onward, the exam is going to cost $175, and there is a fee you have to pay if you set a time and you have to reschedule. So I'd make sure you choose a time that you know you're going to be able to take the exam by. If you set it out for maybe, say, 2 weeks from now, and then you realize, oh wow, I'm not at all prepared for this, I need to reschedule it, you're going to have to put down money for that, which is unfortunate. So just make sure you have it well ahead at a time that you know you'll be able to take it. So you're going to have to decide on a testing location. Even though this is a computer-based exam, you can only take it at certain proctored areas. You'll have a map similar to this. Right here I'm showing testing centers around Indianapolis, where NPCA is located. You're going to find a local center. Make sure you choose one that you're comfortable with. Make sure you know how to get there. You really don't want to be late for this, so make sure it's not going to be taking you, off in some place that you've never been before or you have no idea how to get to. You want to find a location that you can get to with plenty of time before the exam starts. So what do I study? What is on the FE? Well, from this list from the NCEES website, you're going to have 18 topics for civil engineers. You have mathematics, probability and statistics, computational tools, ethics and professional practice, engineering economics, statics, dynamics, mechanics of materials, fluid mechanics, hydraulics, structural analysis, structural design, geotechnical engineering, transportation engineering, environmental engineering, construction, and surveying. Woo, that is a lot. But the thing to know is that the FE covers breadth of material rather than depth. So even though you have structural design on this, you're not going to be doing a really complicated structure on that. You'll be asked some general questions to assess your knowledge of, okay, do you know method of joints? Do you know method of sections? That kind of stuff. For example, engineering economics has 4 to 6 questions in that section. Geotechnical engineering, on the other hand, has 9 to 14 questions. So I'd really recommend you look up on the website what the question distribution is for the different sections and decide, is this something that I feel confident about? Oh, if you haven't taken a geotechnical class and you see, oh, there's going to be about 14 questions on the exam, that lets you know right away that is something to study. So once you are ready to study, you're going to want to put together some good resources. When you register through NCEES, you can get the FE reference handbook, which is going to contain all your equations, all your givens. It's a really big manual. It's got all this information in it. And you're also going to get the FE practice exam. The practice exam is great. It is pretty close to what the actual exam is like. It's a little bit simplified, but it's a great resource for letting you know, oh, if I work under this kind of time constraint, here's how many questions I can do, and it gets you used to the reference handbook pretty well. You're going to want to become familiar with the handbook because it's the exact same one you're going to be using on the exam. The one on the exam is on the computer, though, but all the layout is the same. And you won't be asked any questions that require information, any equations outside the handbook. So it is your best friend, so get used to it. So you're going to want to put together a study schedule. It's up to you to create a schedule based on how long you've been out of school and what classes you took, maybe how much time you have per month to study. If you can only study once a week, you're going to want to have plenty of time ahead of that to get ready. If you're going to be studying every single day, then maybe you don't need 2 months ahead or something. I had about a month before I took it. But the important thing is that you put together a schedule and that you follow it. Know what it is that you're going to study. Don't just say, oh, I'm going to sit down and study for the FE for an hour. You want to say, hey, I'm going to study mathematics, or I'm going to study calculus, or I'm going to study surveying on this day. That's what I found the most useful. There's a lot of example schedules you can get online. The FE subreddit has some pretty good ones and a lot of other great information. So I'd recommend putting together a schedule that you know you can follow. If you say, oh, I'm going to study for 10 hours every single day for a week, that's probably not going to happen. So be realistic. Some great review books, I thought, were the FE Civil Review Manual by Michael Lindberg. Again, it's not entirely representative of the exam. The material in the book is a bit more complex, but everything in the exam is going to be in that book. Everything in that book, though, is not necessarily going to be in the exam, but it hits all the main 18 points. It gets you used to the reference manual really well. I'd recommend it. There's also the FE Civil Practice Problems, also by Lindberg. I didn't find these as useful. Just like I said, they're more complex than the ones on the exam, so you're not really getting yourself used to answering questions in 3 minutes. If you have to spend 10 minutes doing a question on the civil practice problems, that might be even some not necessarily useful habits for taking the actual exam. If you need to brush up on any theory, I definitely recommend going back to your textbooks. This is especially useful when you have ethics questions or something on that. So it's a great resource to return to. Don't just, pawn them off to the next group taking the class. It's good to keep a hold of at least some of those. Some other resources are Chi Epsilon, which is the National Civil Engineering Honor Society. Purdue University Chi Epsilon has a great website that has a bunch of recordings and prep material for the FE. It's free, so you don't have to go to Purdue to access it. I'd really recommend it. There's also YouTube. Of course, there's tons of videos on just about every topic on YouTube, but if you really don't know where to begin, you can Google some stuff and it'll take you there really quick. Khan Academy is also good when you have the basic topics. If you have to brush up on math or geometry or something, you can look those up pretty quick, and they're also free. So you want to make sure you get to the exam 30 minutes before the test. You're going to have to go through some steps like putting your things in the locker, signing in, making sure you're you. You're going to want to have a state-issued ID with you. I cannot stress how important that is, that you have a state ID rather than a school ID. If you bring a school ID, they're going to turn you away. You're also going to want to take an approved calculator. The list of approved calculators, according to the NCEES website, are for Casio, you have the FX115 and the FX991. For Hewlett-Packard, you have the HP33S and the HP35S. For Texas Instruments, you have the TI-30X and the TI-36X. I used the same calculator all through high school and college, which was the TI-30X. So when I came to the exam, I knew exactly how to use it. So don't rush out and get an exam 15 minutes before the test, or get a calculator 15 minutes before the exam, and you suddenly don't know how to use, a cosine function on it. Make sure you're familiar with it. You do get a calculator on the software that you take the exam, but it is a little cumbersome, so I wouldn't bet on that. Have a calculator that you're comfortable with. That's really the most important thing. You're also given a whiteboard and a marker to do some handwork, some scratch work on that. You're going to have to do it because there are engineering questions on there. They might not be huge 30-minute problems, but you're going to have to do math. And some other tips, watch your time. Like I said, it's 5 hours and 20 minutes for 110 questions. That sounds like a long amount of time, but it goes by extremely quickly. I looked up when I was finished with the exam and saw I only had three minutes left. You want to devote about 3 minutes to each question, and if you're stuck on one or you're taking longer than that, just flag it and move on. All the questions are worth the same number of points, and none of the questions refer back to previous questions. So don't feel like you have to struggle through a question if it's taking you 10 minutes and you really don't know. Just move on. You want to get as many answered as you possibly can within that time. You can come back later. Before you finish a section, you're going to have a list showing you all the questions that you skipped, all the questions that you flagged, so you can go back to those really easily, and it'll make it a whole lot simpler trying to get through everything. Don't just sit down and be stuck at the very beginning. And also breathe. You just want to keep in mind that, you're still human, you're still taking the exam. Once you get out, you can go run around, scream, throw your hands up in the air, but just keep focused on the exam. You can get through it. It's not impossible. Make educated guesses and watch your units. One of the biggest trip-ups on the exam are going to be people forgetting to convert their units from feet to inches or kilograms to newtons. Just keep all that stuff in mind. If you can eliminate answers that you know are incorrect, usually through units, you can scratch those off and try and make an educated guess from the remaining ones. There's no penalty for guessing, so don't feel like, oh, I shouldn't answer this one because I have no idea how to do it. Just get something down. Your results come out about a week after you take the exam, maybe a little bit sooner. It just kind of depends on what day you take it on. So in summary, the exam is 6 hours long, and there's two parts of it. You have the general and the specific section. You have the break. You're going to register at ncees.org. Know what your study materials are ahead of time and arrive prepared. You really don't want to be rushing in 5 minutes before the exam and show them an ID and then they say, oh, sorry, that's not the right ID, and then turn you away. And answer what you can and skip what you can't and then return to it. That really is just, you want to get as much material done as you can. Again, it's about breadth, not depth. So I want to thank everybody for joining me for this presentation. I hope it's all been helpful for you. If you have any questions, there's loads of materials online like the ones I had mentioned. So once again, this has been Mitch Rector with tips for taking the FE exam. Thank you.